The screen is glowing again, symbols I can't read crawling across it like insects, pulsing brighter each second. I shouldn't be recording this, but if you're hearing my voice, it's probably already too late. This laptop, it's not just old tech from the deep web. It holds things we were never meant to see, things they'll do anything to keep hidden. Governments, corporations, whatever you want to call them. I thought I bought a piece of junk. Instead, I unlocked something alive. Wait, did you hear that? Someone's in the hallway. They know I'm talking to you. I wasn't hunting for danger. I was just bored, stuck in the loop of job boards, ramen dinners, and tech videos of gear I could never afford. My only thrill was chasing rare machines, relics whispered about in shadowy corners of the web. That's how I found it. A thread called Rare Machines, not for the faint of heart. Buried among scams and urban legends was a single post. No story, just a photo of a battered laptop, its casing cracked, ports crudely soldered shut. Caption, don't buy this unless you're ready to see. I laughed until I read the comment. They weren't jokes. Don't touch it. Once it boots, you can't undo it. I messaged the seller. Their replies chilled me. It's not for casual browsing. Once you see what's inside, you can't unsee it. And finally, this isn't a machine you own. It's one that owns you. I should have walked away. Instead, I wired over the money, heart pounding. I told myself it'd be malware, a story to laugh about later. But deep down, I knew I'd crossed the line and the package was already on its way. The box showed up on my doorstep 3 days later, and right away, I knew something was off. No labels, no branding, no fragile stickers, just plain brown cardboard that sagged as if it had been soaked in water at some point. It was heavier than I expected too. Not shipping a laptop heavy, but dense, as though whatever was inside had been absorbing things it wasn't supposed to. When I leaned closer, the smell hit me. Mildew, stale cigarettes, and something faintly metallic, like rust mixed with old blood. I dragged it inside anyway, half amused and half nauseated, muttering to myself, great, I just paid a month's rent for a biohazard. My hands shook a little as I cut through the tape, the cardboard tearing like damp skin. Inside, wrapped in crumbling layers of newspaper written in an alphabet I didn't recognize, was the machine itself. At first glance, it was exactly like the forum picture, a thick, blocky laptop straight out of the early 2000s. The casing was cracked along one corner, revealing a sliver of metal underneath, and the surface was covered in peeling stickers, symbols, runes, maybe even letters, but none I could place. Cyrillic? No Japanese? No, they looked older, stranger, as if they didn't belong to any language still in use. I ran my thumb over one, and it left a faint black smudge, as though the ink never fully dried. I couldn't help but laugh. What's this? Some homemade Lovecraft cosplay laptop. Next thing you know, it'll try to summon Cthulhu when I open Notepad. The humor was mostly for me a way to diffuse the fact that something about the thing unsettled me in ways I couldn't explain. Turning it over, I noticed more oddities. Where there should have been a serial number sticker, there was only a scorched rectangle, as if someone had burned it away on purpose. Several ports were crudely soldered shut, globs of silvery metal covering USB slot and what looked like a networking jack. Who disables ports like that? Not your average tinkerer, that's for sure. The screen, when I opened it, was matte and faintly scratched, with greasy fingerprints ghosting across the glass like smudges that had been pressed there years ago and never cleaned. The keyboard was missing 2 keys entirely, leaving only jagged plastic stubs where they once were. My stomach churned when I realized they weren't random letters. They were the N and O. It felt like a warning. Still, I told myself it was just junk, an overpriced antique that would probably boot to some outdated Linux distro or, at worst, some spy movie style NSA spyware. I even said it out loud, cynically muttering, yeah, I'm sure the CIA really wants to track the guy eating instant ramen at 2 a.m. But beneath the sarcasm, a low thrum of dread was building, because the thing was undeniably strange. Wrong, even. Machines age, sure, but they don't age like this. They don't come mutilated, their identity stripped, their functionality intentionally crippled. I told myself I'd power it on just once, out of curiosity, and then wipe the drive or maybe gut it for parts. That was the plan. But plans are fragile things. They break the moment reality decides you don't deserve them. And the truth is, the moment I touched the power button, I already knew I wasn't going to stop at just once. I should have listened to the seller's warning. I should have noticed the missing port, the scorched serial number, the way it smelled faintly like decay. I should have realized this wasn't a laptop, it was a lockbox. And the only reason to solder a lockbox shut is to keep something inside. There was one file in particular waiting for me on that machine, just one, and opening it changed everything. When I pressed the power button, the laptop made a grinding sound like gears chewing through sand before the screen flickered to life. No brand logo, no startup chime, just a dim black screen that slowly bled into a crude operating system. It looked hand-stitched together, a bare-bones interface with pale gray text and no icons, only a directory tree. 3 folders stared back at me, their names etched in blocky white letters. Watch under me. Doors are not open. And simply exit. I laughed nervously. Edgy hacker roleplay, huh? Very scary. My voice sounded too loud in the quiet room. As I hovered over Watch As Me, the webcam light blinked on. My stomach dropped. I had taped it over. Thick black electrical tape pressed flat across the lens. Still, the light pulsed faintly, as if something inside was straining to see. Then came the noise. At first, I thought it was the laptop's fan groaning. But no, this was softer, wet, almost human. Faint breathing, broken by the occasional distorted whisper, as though someone was exhaling directly into my headphones, even though they weren't plugged in. I snapped the lid shut, heart hammering. The sound stopped instantly. For a moment, I sat frozen in the dark, convincing myself it was just a trick of failing hardware, just corruption or some troll's idea of fun. But I already knew, deep down, that wasn't it. That was just the beginning. Things escalated fast. Curiosity won, as it always does. I clicked on Watch Under Me. The screen filled with static, then resolved into a grainy video. A man sat in front of a desk, lit only by the glow of his own monitor. He didn't move, didn't blink. He just stared forward for what felt like hours, the picture warping every so often like the tape itself was resisting playback. Then, without warning, a figure appeared behind him. A hand slid across his throat. He collapsed out of frame. The video ended. No explanation. I slammed the spacebar, heart pounding. A prank, I told myself. Some art project stitched together to freak out idiots like me. But when I opened the next file, all pretense of rationalizing fell apart. It wasn't pre-recorded. It was live. On the screen, under the harsh glow of a street lamp, was my block, my street, the crooked mailbox at the end of my driveway. I leaned toward the screen just as the camera feed tilted, as though whoever was holding it wanted to remind me this wasn't some coincidence. They were outside, watching. My hands shook as I searched deeper, and that's when I found the hidden partition, buried beneath the main directory. Dozens of folders, each one named after people, random, ordinary names, until my eyes landed on one that wasn't random at all. It was my full name, my entire identity, neatly labeled on the machine that wasn't supposed to know me. I didn't open it, not yet, because in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This laptop wasn't just storing files. It wasn't just watching. It was keeping score. That night, I learned the laptop wasn't confined to its own screen. Every time I opened a file, the lights in my apartment flickered, buzzing fluorescent bursts like the wiring itself was reacting. Once, when I replayed the surveillance feed of my street, the bulb in the hallway blew out entirely. I laughed it off, but the sound came out sharp, brittle. Then it escalated. I woke one night to the grinding whir of a fan. The laptop had powered itself on. The lid was open, the screen glowing faintly, though I hadn't touched it. Lines of text scrolled too fast to read, the glow painting my walls in a sickly pulse. By morning, my TV glitched to static every time I passed the laptop. My phone screen warped with gray lines, even when it wasn't near the thing. It was like the infection spread through every device I owned. The worst part? At night, I started hearing it. Soft keystrokes, deliberate, tapping out letters while I lay frozen in bed. The rhythm was steady, patient, as though someone else was sitting in my chair, using my fingers, living my life. I tried to joke, muttering into the dark. I always said my devices were listening. Guess it wasn't a joke after all. But the humor didn't stick. Not after I opened one folder and saw something that shouldn't exist in this timeline. I can't tell you what, not yet. All I'll say is, from that moment, I stopped seeing the laptop as a machine. It was something else, something alive. Panic drove me back to the forum. I hammered the keyboard, demanding answers from the seller. My messages came out frantic, almost incoherent. What is this thing? Why does it have my name? Why is it watching me? For hours, silence. Then, finally, a single reply. Seller, you opened the wrong file, didn't you? My mouth went dry. I hadn't told them what I'd clicked, what I'd seen, but they knew. They knew everything. I typed back, fingers shaking. What does that mean? What's happening to me? But there was no response. The seller's profile vanished as if it had never existed. Every post wiped, every trace gone. The thread where I first found the laptop was sealed shut. I refreshed again and again, but it was like the forum had swallowed itself whole. That's when I noticed a new tab blinking at the edge of my screen. I hadn't opened it. The title read, Live. I clicked and my blood turned to ice. A chat room filled the screen. Anonymous users, dozens of them, lines of text scrolling faster than I could read, and pinned at the top my full name, my street address, even my IP updating in real time. Below it, a map with a red marker pulsing over my apartment. The coordinates were exact. The chat buzzed with with anticipation. Messages like, he's next, and finally got one local. I slammed the laptop shut, but it didn't matter because that was the moment I stopped being alone in my own house. The first knock came at 3:15 a.m. 3 sharp raps, steady, deliberate. I froze in bed, listening as the sound echoed through the thin walls of my apartment. Then came the footsteps, slow, dragging, circling the building. I told myself it was a neighbor, drunk, confused, but the laptop had other ideas. Its camera light clicked on, and when I dared to look, I saw it had started recording on its own. Grainy footage filled the screen, figures standing at my windows, still as mannequins, faces blurred by static. I didn't scream. I couldn't. I just stared until my eyes burned. And then I made the mistake of checking the file directory again. There it was, a new video folder, stamped with the current date. Inside, dozens of clips, my apartment from different angles, my own face, sleeping, eating, even brushing my teeth. Footage I had never filmed, yet there it was, cataloged like exhibits in a museum of my life. The more I watched, the less I trusted my own memory. Days began slipping through my fingers. I'd wake up and realize 2 had passed. Whole meals I didn't remember eating were gone from the fridge. It was like the machine was rewriting me, overwriting who I was. I don't know how much longer I can keep this hidden, but if you're still watching, still listening, you need to know the final thing I saw before it all ended. I swore I wouldn't do it. For days I avoided the folder with my name on it, but in the end, curiosity chewed through every ounce of restraint. My hands moved on their own, double-clicking. The folder opened to hundreds of videos, each one labeled with a date, stretching back further than I've even been alive. The first showed my parents holding me as a newborn, but the angle was wrong, like someone else had been in the room filming. Another file showed me at 5 years old, alone in my bedroom, whispering to an imaginary friend. Then high school, college, jobs, failed relationship, every private, forgotten moment, captured without my knowledge. But it didn't stop there. Near the bottom were files with dates that hadn't happened yet. My birthday's years from now, my funeral. I was shaking too hard to open them, except for the very last one, stamped exactly 10 minutes ahead of the current time. I watched myself thrash in the grainy glow of the laptop screen, screaming as unseen figures dragged me out of frame. I won't tell you what they looked like. Some truths should stay buried. The audio keeps cutting. If you can still hear me, God, I don't know how long I have. They're in the room. I can hear the floorboards creak, slow, deliberate, like someone's pacing just out of sight. My breath fogs in front of me, though the air is warm. Every shadow looks wrong. The laptop flickers, screen tearing into black and white stripe before freezing on a single message in bold, jagged letters. You're next. I don't know if that means me, or you, or both of us. Listen, if you've ever thought about buying tech from the deep web, don't. It's not a marketplace. It's a trap. And if you ever see a folder with your name on it, if it ever shows up on your screen, don't open it. Don't even touch it, because if it's there, it already knows you. If my folder is on your laptop, run. Static. Tell me in the comments, would you open the folder with your name on it?